Hello friends and welcome to a new episode of Whose Fault Is It Anyways, where I get a little sassy and try to convince you that your teammates are not holding you back from gaining MMR. Today we have a mid-TA player, Guardian5, writing in saying, can you help me? I've lost about 1k MMR, can't get past 1.2k, and every game they feel like they're doing pretty well, their net worth's pretty high, it's kind of matching the enemies, but then they look at their carry and their carry is in the dirt every single game. So what can they do to win those types of games? So I was expecting to pull up this game and then take a look at your farming patterns, because the situation you described can happen a lot if you farm your own half of the map. It means you get a lot of farm just like the enemy, but you never really pull ahead, and then your carries look poor because you're taking their farm, and it's not really like, oh, I'm doing so well. It's like, I'm taking his lunch money, ha ha ha, right? And that's not really what we want. However, you have an offlane Spectre. This game was destined to be extremely difficult and not unwinnable, but like I would not lose any sleep over losing this game. So you mentioned getting really frustrated. I get it. Dota is like that. Be annoyed. Yeah, Spectre offlane's not great, but then let it go. We can only stress about so many things at once, and this is just a game that was never really meant to work out too much. Now, you did mention to me a couple things you practiced and you improved on. That's great. That's all you need to take from this game, and then you just let it go and then be frustrated about like the next game where you didn't play well enough. However, I know that's not quite what you and other people might want to hear, so now let's talk about things you can do better. The first is to not have a draft like this. After the first phase, you've got a Rubik and AA support, and this should tell you a couple things about your draft. One, neither of these supports wants to be a frontliner. They want other people to go in first, draw attention, and it makes it easier for them to do their job. So we need someone who might initiate, who might start plays, someone who might also build the auras that are really good and popular right now. Neither of these supports like to do that. And then bonus value to some magic damage, because you have an AA whose Ice Vortex is going to amp that. The other core roles can maybe do some of that. The carry, not so much in everything we wanted, right? Maybe they can be the initiator, but it's not usually what you ask from your carry. You want them to just be like some damage dealer, best for the game. So a lot of this has to come from the mid or the off lane. Now, granted, it could and maybe should come from the off lane in many cases, but the mid role can also do it. So if you're frequently getting bad drafts, you need to take a bit more responsibility and maybe flex your picks a bit, because your offlaner picks Spectre as their hero first, and that should tell you, I am not getting an initiator or aura builder from my offlane. And now the question is, if I pick another carry type hero, is my carry going to pick an aura builder or initiating type hero? And that answer is very unlikely. You picked Sniper. The universe tried to stop you, and it got banned. And after thinking harder on it, then you went with TA. So I don't mean to be too harsh on this, but you kind of put your team in a follow-up bad spot, right? I'm not blaming you for this Spectre offlane pick. Like, this is really bad. But having two cores on a team happens quite a lot. Two like right-click cores in this bracket. It's Guardian. So adding a third core into that, maybe I can't like blame you fully, but you're certainly not getting any like praise for like, oh, a nice flex to make this work. You know, it's like, here's a third hero who needs to do the exact same thing as the other heroes in your game. So you kind of made this a lot harder for yourself. That might not always be the case though. Like maybe you pick TA first, then you get surprise spectered. So here we are, the draft is bad. What can we do? You need to delay the game, because this is a pub classic where, hey, we have more cores. We simply need to get later into the game where we're all farmed, and then we will win. And you can try to play the early game a bit, but if it doesn't look great, you just need to move into delaying the game. So this will vary depending on your hero. If you play TA a lot, I recommend thinking about an Aghanims. It's not very popular right now, and I admit I'm not a mid or a TA player, so take this with a grain of salt, sure, but I do believe you really need to try to delay this game, rat it out. So the Aghanims will allow you to be very elusive, kind of like Nature's Prophet, and constantly hop between lanes. And my bracket struggles to deal with a TA doing this. So in Guardian 5, I am sure with a little bit of map awareness, you can really drag this game out. It already went long, so imagine if you made a concerted effort to push it even farther. you might buy the time for your teammates to all pick up farm. The final option is to play like a smurf, and no matter how bad your team is, no matter how bad the draft is, I'm awesome, so we're going to win the game. I'll single-handedly do it. This is what people want to hear, and it's the hardest one. It's not easy to simply play thousands of MMR higher, but let's get into it a little bit on things we can do. I don't care about your final net worth, which is what you were talking about. Now, I kind of do if we looked at other games, but this is a weird game, so I really don't care about this. What I care about is if that we are genuinely supposed to be better than our peers and our opponents, you should not be going even in the laning stage, right? I'm not saying you win every game that you win the laning stage, but every laning stage should typically look good for you if you really are better than your opponents. So mid TA, sample size of 1, but still mid TA going even with Luna, who's not really even a mid hero, and she bought bad items. That doesn't really give me a reason to believe you should be above Guardian 5. So the rest of this video, I'm going to break down your laning stage and talk about things you need to do better here so that you can consistently win your laning stage, and then you can worry about the rest of the game. I'm not a TA or a mid player, so feel free to take my advice with a grain of salt, but the end conclusion is that you do need to be winning these laning stages more consistently, and you can go to other people for that advice, but I will tell you now what I know and can help with. You place your observer, that's fine. When Luna comes and places her observer, and you want to get it, you can do this, but then you have to kill your own observer. And you have time to do this because I know where the rest of their team is. If you don't do this, you pretty much televise that you have an observer here because you walk straight there, she can click you have nothing, and she's just going to come and do this. If you deny your own observer, neither of you has vision in the mid lane, but at least you got 100 gold over the Luna, so you can pick up some items first. So go ahead and deny that when that situation arises. The first wave, I'm not too worried about last hits exactly. Like, that's something for you to practice and always improve on. This is what I care about. So you got 3 last hits out of 4, not bad. Luna, 2 last hits are the observers and sentries. So she does not have a last hit yet. And you want to pressure her to deny more and to at least make her work for every last hit. So walking away from these creeps just to stand here doesn't really help. You want to pressure her, if nothing else, at least for the range creep, because you can stand pretty safely, all mid laners can, for the range creep if you're too scared to go for the melee creeps, but you should at least walk in and kind of threaten it, make them really work for it, make them use spells if you can, because if they're using spells to get last hits, that is mana not used to harass you. Next, as soon as Luna walks here, you should start fighting. Pop refraction and go. She is in a terrible spot creep-wise because she is surrounded by your creeps, which means if you two fight, she will immediately take aggro from all the creeps. You will take aggro from these melee creeps, but not this range creep. So that's going in your favor. The melee creeps are also going to have to spend time walking around your creeps and traveling to you, whereas your creeps are right next to Luna and will have very little travel time. So you should activate refraction and walk towards her and fight. You'll get the bonus damage from refraction and the damage block so that as she trades with you, it's not really doing anything. And you can tank the first spell and auto attack before the creeps really get there to start hitting your refraction. You do attack once, but you don't activate refraction, so just the order of operations is kind of like meh. I think it's more natural when your creeps are here that you're staying in this area to like fight for the creeps. And yeah, we missed some, I'm not gonna worry about the execution, but that's what we wanna see when you do end up shoving the waves in. This is another situation, by the way, where she walks up too far, right? A little poke, a little all that. Then she walks over here. Come stand here, activate refraction, and fight. Same situation. Your creeps are all in range and closer. You will only get the melee creeps. Your creeps will build a wall between her creeps. She is standing too far. You should activate refraction and hit her and start whittling her down. You have stat items. She does not. Now, granted, her base stats are actually just all around solid, but you're TA with refraction. Like, you'll win these right-click wars, and by just like standing back here, you're kind of letting her do this stuff without any punishment. Using refraction to get this last hit is not too bad. A couple of your refractions you use just to push the wave faster, which isn't great the way you were doing it. But this, because Luna's here to contest, I'm down for it. At least we're getting last hits. However, you don't need to do this. Use creep aggro here to draw the creep towards you. You're both ranged heroes with very similar attack damage. So if you attack a creep you're standing right next to, your attack pretty much lands instantly, whereas Luna's has to do the animation and then travel across the map to hit the creep. So When your damage is similar, you don't need to use spells to boost your damage. You can just use creep aggro. Still, this isn't like the worst use, but like you can save mana. Right now you have enough mana, it's not too bad, but just so you know, you can then save this spell and use it to fight later. Perhaps right now when you have a creep advantage, and again, she's in the middle of your creeps, you could now run at her, activate refraction, and fight, but you used it earlier, so you still have a couple charges, but you know, it'd be nice to have all of them. On the next wave, again, the same example, you use refraction for the last hit. Again, not the worst, bonus trick, creep aggro, wait, I can't see Luna, someone else on the map. Hit Medusa, snap back, step backwards. All the creeps will run towards you, and then you don't have to worry about Luna. Even if you can't see her, again, it's the same principle, it doesn't matter. You're right next to these creeps, your attack will land first over Luna's, so you just need to get the timing right, and then you don't need to use refraction. Again, you can save this mana, save the cooldown. By the end here, you used refraction, but you didn't use any of these absorb charges, and we want to get the maximum value out of all of our spells. Now here, I do like that you follow in, you get that deny, and I think you're going for Nether. I think you accidentally hit the tower though, draw aggro, oops. That's okay, that's kind of what refraction's for. If you need it, you're pretty healthy, it's okay. But you're walking to the water rune now, and I think you should stay because this is 2 range creeps. They're valuable, just stand here. I'm not gonna rewind, but a few seconds ago, you can see that both supports are still in their lanes, so you're not really worried about this rune being stolen, and frankly, you're not that bad off. Like, you still had 1 bottle charge and mostly healthy and decent amount of mana, because surprise, surprise, Luna carry, or Luna mid is not a very, like, strong, aggressive mid laner. But yeah, so I think you can pressure those 2 range creeps because they're pretty valuable. Now, if you're pushing in like a melee and a range creep, then it's kind of like whatever to me. You can use that time like this to go get the rune, right? Because these are slightly less valuable than double range. However, now we have nothing to do. You shouldn't be backing off. You should be here messing with her. Hit this melee creep, hit this range creep, make her work for these. This wave, you do shove in, and then you follow through with the creeps. So you make her work for it, and she actually doesn't get either of these creeps. You made her miss 2 creeps. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you do this every single wave, this is how mid laners end up 10, 15, 20 extra last hits over the enemy mid laner, and that's what you should be looking for as a TA. It's kind of what she does with her refraction and bonus damage and side blades and all of that. It's not easy, but it's like, it's why you pick TA to be this like mid stomper and then like snowball the game. So that's what you need to work on if you want to carry people like Spectre in your games. You know, this wave you end up pushing in, and what could be more valuable than 2 range creeps? A range and a flag bearer creep, and you have refraction, you have tons of damage, 45 extra damage, you way outclass her attack, she'll have to use a spell. But no, Luna, please get these last hits. They're very important. A mid player needs these last hits. Luna, please take your time, focus up. I know last hitting under tower is difficult. I won't add anything to that. We gotta run at her, make her miss these. This is how you slowly build up your advantage. Now this one is like, okay, fine. If we want the rune, sure. But I think you did have 2 bottle charges at this point. Yeah, you still have 2 charges. This is 3 creeps. Again, something you can kind of like fight over, make her miss this. But if you ever do need the bottle charges, like I don't really mind. That's kind of the play, right? To shove the lane and then go get the runes. But if you do have the availability to stay, it's really nice, especially if the runes just don't matter to you, depending on the heroes you're playing and the situations going on. Now this time you do follow through, but it's a little bit sketchy because Pudge was just dead, he just respawned, so diving this far is kind of scary. This is already good. You see this creep? There's no way she can get it. So you can like follow through, and then once it starts getting deep, you just turn around. And the hope is that these melee creeps kind of catch these, they're not going to come back, and then the mid hero is like stuck in between this like big gap where like, I can't get the range creep, I can't get these, like they have to pick one, they miss some, so you don't have to like actually chase this far, but if you can, it's like, it's okay. It's just a little risky because like Pudge is up, or he just like respawn and it's scary. So your options here are that if this is safe and you know like I can deal with this, I'm that kind of hero, the supports are in the lanes, all that, then I don't mind doing this and then like harass Luna with this creep wave coming in and do all that. If this is too scary though, you should be pulling it away to a camp to increase your farm efficiency. So as you walk, you're spending the travel time hitting this creep wave with side blades, you kill them all, and then you farm a hard camp. So even though you give Luna 1 wave, you take a wave and the hard camp, and that's how you're getting 200 gold ahead. Because right now, where are we? Yeah, we're like a couple hundred up, But with a hard camp, you could start really ramping that up. If you take an extra hard camp every minute, something like that, right? Which you're level 5, you can start doing now. That's how we're going to get really ahead of Luna, because she didn't think to do that. She had the creep wave and she just tanked it under tower. And you also didn't pressure her. You're actually just standing here for like 20 seconds. The next creep wave, right? Let's go back. Like, we can plan this out. When you do this, the next creep wave hasn't even spawned, which means there's nothing over here, which means once you kill these creeps, there's nothing to do in this lane. So it's strange to just wait. Just go jungle now. Even if you don't do that trick where you're walking through, just come jungle now and get gold. TA at 5, you can do this. But after doing nothing, we still haven't seen Pudge. That's the other worry, right? I know getting ganked by both these heroes is a bit unfortunate and maybe a little surprising. And you didn't have your observer quite yet. I think you'd bought it but not brought it in. But we just hadn't seen Pudge. This is where map awareness comes in. He had died and still not shown since we talked about it earlier. So you just have to be really careful. And in that time, you can go jungle. And if you are jungling and they gank you here, the mid hero is over here. And if you see the mid hero start to walk over, that's super suspicious. And then we just back away. So this is all about just like safe play from the map awareness. I know it's not easy, but this was avoidable by improving ourselves. Some other stuff happened. It's not hugely important. At the end of the day, you are about even with Luna. Your last hits and net worth, they're essentially equal. So I know this game, probably lost because of the Spectre offlane. But the Spectre offlane hasn't actually affected you too much yet. I know you got ganked a little bit. Maybe we can say, yeah, they're free because that lane's easy. But that'll happen in other games where you have perfectly legitimate offlaners like Beastmaster on your team. We still want to win our laning stage and have a lot of impact as the mid laner. And if in a game against a Luna mid without good items, no offense, Luna, if you're watching this, but Luna didn't do anything impressive. I don't think Luna's like a really good smurf or anything like that. And we're like, oh, thank goodness we went even with Luna mid, right? She was average. She's a Guardian 5 mid laner. And we went even with her. That tells me, mathematical equation, we're a Guardian 5 mid laner. This is where we need to start. If we want to start climbing, whether you have people like Spectre offlane or completely legitimate drafts, you're always going to try to win your own lane and have a lot of impact. And right now, we aren't doing that. So I really recommend you watch some pro games, find actual core players if you want, get their advice. But you need to start doing more to have consistent laning stages, and then you can worry about the rest of the game and how your team is doing. If you can play any hero besides Sniper and TA though, when you see a Spectre offlane, that'll also do a lot to help you out. Thank you for watching. I hope you found that helpful. If you would like to blame one of your teammates, please send us the game. Let me know what they did wrong, how bad they are, and why you deserve to win. And I'll pick one of you and we'll see if that's really the case. See you there.